Ever really stop to think about the story behind the food on your plate? It's a lot bigger and a lot more complicated than you might imagine. Today, we're going to dig into how technology is completely rewriting the future of food.
Okay, let's start with just one number, 26%.
Yep, that's how much of our global greenhouse gas emissions come from our food. And we're talking about the entire journey here, from the farm all the way to our fork. It is a huge, huge number.
All right, so let's really get into this, because that one number, it's really just the tip of the iceberg.
So when we say 26%, we mean the whole shebang. It covers everything: the land use, the farming itself, the processing, the trucks, the packaging, you name it. That is a massive slice of the pie when you think about our total global emissions. But here's the thing. Emissions are only one part of the story. Let's talk about land for a second. Get this, a staggering half of all the planet's habitable land, and I mean land that isn't covered in ice or is a desert, is used for agriculture. It's the #1 way we humans use land on this planet, period.
And it doesn't stop there. Agriculture sucks up 70% of our global fresh water. It's responsible for 78% of the pollution in our waterways, and the impact on wildlife, it's just mind-blowing. 94% of the weight of all land mammals on Earth, that's livestock. Think about that. Our farm animals outweigh every single wild mammal, from the tiniest mouse to the biggest elephant, by about 15 to 1. It's wild.
So yeah, the scale of this challenge is immense. But this is where it gets interesting. This is where technology starts to step in and really change the game, starting with just making the system we already have a whole lot smarter.
And the big idea here is something called precision agriculture. Basically, instead of just spraying water, fertilizer, and pesticides everywhere and hoping for the best, it's about using data to give crops exactly what they need right when they need it. No more, no less.
And this isn't some far-off sci-fi stuff. This is happening right now. For example, check out the digital farmhand. It's this awesome little robot that rolls over the crops using sensors and sprayers to take care of each plant individually. It's all automated and incredibly precise.
And it's all part of this whole connected system. You've got satellites giving farmers this amazing bird's-eye view of their fields. You've got drones that can go in and deliver nutrients with almost surgical precision. And then you have these tiny IoT sensors right there in the dirt, sending back real-time data on moisture and nutrients. It's a total tech ecosystem. And this stuff is already being used to solve massive problems. Like back in 2019, there was this huge fall armyworm infestation in China. It covered almost 1 million hectares. So what do? They sent in swarms of drones to target the pests. They basically stopped a potential disaster in its tracks using this tech.
Okay, so making traditional farms smarter is a huge step forward, for sure. But what if we didn't just optimize the old model? What if we completely reimagined what a farm is in the first place?
This brings us to vertical farming. I mean, growing crops indoors in these stacked layers, the numbers they're talking about are just bananas. Seriously, look at this. They claim they can use up to 95% less water, 90% less land, and get 10 to 20 times more crops than a regular farm. That sounds like a game changer, right? Well, hold on. There's a really interesting plot twist here. A recent study did a full life cycle analysis and found that when you account for everything, like all the materials needed to build and run these things, even the jute fibers they import for seeding, some vertical farms can actually have a bigger land footprint than a traditional farm. It's a great reminder that you have to look at the whole picture, There are always hidden costs.
Okay, now for what might be the most radical idea of all, cellular agriculture. We're talking about growing real meat without ever needing the animal. Now, the science behind it is super complex, obviously, but you can basically break it down into 3 simple steps. First, you get a small sample of cells from a live animal. Second, you put those cells in something called a bioreactor, kind of like a beer fermenter, and you feed them nutrients so they grow and multiply. And third, you harvest that tissue and shape it into things like chicken nuggets or burgers.
But, even though the science works, there are still some huge hurdles to clear before this stuff is in every grocery store. For one, it's crazy expensive to produce right now. Scaling it up to an industrial level is a whole other puzzle. And maybe the biggest challenge of all, getting people like you and me to actually, trust it.
But even with all those challenges, you can't deny the momentum here. You've got everyone from nonprofits to big tech startups diving in, and they are all convinced that we're making some serious headway towards a much more sustainable way of eating.
So all this amazing innovation in how we grow food is incredible. But it brings us to one last, super important piece of the puzzle. What happens to all that food after it leaves the farm?
Because get this, a mind-boggling 30% of all the food we produce globally just gets thrown away. It's wasted. And a big reason for that is just outdated systems. Think about those confusing sell-by dates on packages that don't really tell you if the food is still good.
And you guessed it, technology is stepping in here too to connect all the dots. We've got AI that can predict what supermarkets need so they don't overorder. We've got smart packaging with little sensors that can tell you if your milk has actually gone bad. And there are even apps that connect businesses with extra food directly to charities that can get it to people who need it.
Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about being efficient. The real goal is to build a food system that's not only sustainable, but also smart enough to make sure that all the incredible work that goes into making our food actually ends up nourishing people.
So, from robots in the field and sky-high indoor farms to lab-grown meat and super smart supply chains, the menu of the future is literally being rewritten as we speak. So the real question for all of us is, are we ready for what's next?